Hey loves, this is Astro Dim here, coming to you live from Boston. Sorry. I don't know, I've been in a quite repping mood, I swear. But I'm here to talk to you guys about solar returns. I'm going to explain what solar return is, explain my whole, history about, what solar returns can provide. Not whole history, but just a little blurb. And then I'm going to talk about how accurate AF this solar return is. Not just this one, but just solar returns in general. How accurate AF this solar return is too. Because, my goodness, y'all, I can't believe, oh my gosh, I just can't believe how accurate this was for my year. So I'm going to explain it to you guys, show you guys how I interpret solar returns. And, we can just go on from there. And, it's just a learning lesson for me too, because I'll explain it later. Let me just explain what solar return is, okay? And excuse me if the screen goes dim. I'm going to try to keep it alive as much as possible, just so you guys are, can see it clearly and this can look as professional as possible. All right, so a solar return basically is when the sun gets back to the same exact degree of which you were born. And it does this every year, i.e. your birthday. But solar returns may not be your birthday exactly. And that is because there's, 365 days in a year, but it does not always take 365 days for the sun to go back to the degree of which you were born. So, for instance, I was born January 7th, but my solar return this year is actually January 6th. Okay? So, basically, when I was born in January 7th, it was January 7th when Capricorn was in the 16th degree at the 27th minute, right? As you can see on the sun. But this year, it's going to take a little less time, and it'll be January 6th when the sun will be in the 16th degree at the 27th minute, excuse me. So, that's why we have that extra leap year to kind of get us back on track. But that's why, a solar return may not actually be on your birthday. But basically, all in all, a solar return is when the sun gets back to the degree of which you were born natally. Excuse my notifications, guys. By the way, if it's a distraction, I'm sorry, okay? But yeah, that's what the solar return is. So when it actually gets to that degree of which you were born, the sun, what astrologers do is take a snapshot of where each planet is, right? They also take a snapshot of where, where the houses are too in the sky, right? And then it's basically kind of displays the energy of your year based off that. It's kind of like a natal chart again. You know what I mean? It's similar to like a natal chart if you were born in 2017, but you still had that, same degree of which you were born sun-wise, if that makes sense. So again, what it does is when the sun hits to the exact degree of which you were born, what astrologers do is take a snapshot of where all the planets were, take a snapshot of how the houses are aligned, and then it says, okay, this is how, based off the sun's energy of when this person's, solar return is, this is how their year is going to be. All right? So that is how the solar return chart is made and how people figure out how their energy is going to be. Now, this is predictive astrology. And if you know me, you know that the predictive astrology is not my thing. I always say, energy is real, but so is free will. That actually kind of rhymes. But energy is real, but free will is too. So, although you may have the energy to reach your soulmate, if you're not putting yourself out there, if you're being a hermit, there is a very low chance that you will meet that soulmate. I mean, unless it's in the 4th house and you meet them at home or meet them through a family member, there's a very, very, very short and low chance of you actually meeting that soulmate. Free will is very real, but this is a great example of that energy is too. And I think with predictive astrology, when it comes to general readings like this one, yes, it will explain the energy of your year. But when it comes to when you go get deep into predictive astrology, such as like getting deep into the aspects and stuff, and you're answering like specific questions, that's, I think, when it gets a little tricky. Okay. So that's when I think free will is definitely involved, and you may not exactly follow, you might not predict the correct thing because, again, you don't know what's in people's minds. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and read this. Yeah, let's go ahead and read this, y'all. This predictive as solar return for me this year. So it looks like that for this solar return of this year, my ascendant's at 22 degrees Aquarius. Now my natal ascendant is at 4 degrees Aquarius, but also my natal Venus is in 20 degrees Aquarius. So this ascendant, my solar return's ascendant, is actually conjunct my natal Venus. And so it's funny because, and this can also go with how the solar return Venus is in the 1st house. I kept having this feeling of, why can't I just, make money or be comfortable with being me? You know what I mean? Why can't I just make money for me just being myself, being my own personality? I wanted my desires to cover me. Venus is not only the love planet and planet with partnerships, which is Libra energy, but Venus also represents Taurus. And Taurus energy is about beauty as well, but it's also about money. 2nd house is represented by Taurus. 2nd house is the money house. So, it's very, this is very indicative with both this ascendant conjuncting my natal Venus and the solar return Venus being in my 1st house, of me trying to get my desires from just being myself, me desiring to be myself and to make money and take care of myself by being myself, right? And that was a big, huge theme of my life this year. That is for sure. I did a lot of self-love and built my confidence up this year as well, which is, again, indicative of me just, appreciating myself and loving myself, because Venus also represents self-worth. So I did a lot of soul searching and, try to understand myself and love myself more. It being the 1st house of self, it makes sense, right? So yeah, that's that. Neptune is not only spirituality but the unknown, and I reached the depths of my soul this year. Again, it's in the 1st house. It's a house of self. I really just tried to learn more about myself through spirituality. I changed my spirituality, with the general transit of Scorpio, Jupiter going into Scorpio, and that's actually happening in my 9th house. That's another example of me changing my beliefs and my religious beliefs and stuff. And I definitely have done so here. I consider myself a Christian for a while. I never really got into specific denominations. But I kind of declared myself finally a non-Christian this year. And it's not that I don't appreciate Jesus Christ and all the prophets of Christianity and all the prophets of just Hebrew or Abrahamic religions in general. I just don't agree with religions at this moment in my life, which is, nothing against anybody who follows any religions. This is your belief, your personal self. But this is your personal thing. I really have a strong belief that salvation is personal. So this is not to go against anyone who does have religious beliefs. I just see myself more as a spiritualist, and this is a perfect indication of that, of me just finding myself through my own spirituality. So that is just definitely indicative. Neptune is in Pisces this year, and for a long time. So this is not just a typical Neptune in the first house. This is extremely, you're getting deep into spirituality and the unknown, right? And I've dug deep into it, and I feel like I'm not even close to where I could be, or close to where others have been, but I've definitely have changed a lot spiritually, and that's for sure. So yeah, that's definitely very indicative. And I actually became more psychic, understand my psychic abilities a lot more during this. So spirituality and self just definitely went hand in hand in this situation. Definitely. Mars is in my first house too, in Pisces. So if I were to put this up as a sentence, Mars represents, assertion, leadership, spirituality. Pisces represents spirituality and just going with the flow. In the first house itself, I would say that my assertion or my leadership skills have been more go with the flow when it comes to self. Now that sounds kind of confusing, but let me break it down. I've been definitely more go with the flow and not pushing people forward or asserting myself with people, but I definitely haven't been assertive myself with myself. You know what I mean? I haven't set these set deadlines, but Demi, you have to do this, no, you have to do that, which I usually do. I'm a Capricorn, right? I haven't been doing that this year. My North Node natally is in Pisces. So, and I've been really paying attention deeply into my North Node. And so, because I've just been lost, I'm going to my Saturn return right now. I'm edging towards the end of it. And I've just been really wanting to find what my purpose is in life and what my purpose is here. So, this whole go with the flow energy, and how even though Aquarius is my first house on my solar return, all my first house plans is in Pisces. I was supposed to really focus more on my, North Node here. And so I was needing to just go with the flow to understand myself more, basically. So I've opened myself up a lot to different ideas, different religions, different everything. I didn't, have my set plan anymore. I finally just let go and let God. So having these 3 planets in my first house really has changed my life drastically. And it really, guys, if I can explain how I was before or earlier this year and how I am now is totally different. Letting go is what my destiny is, and I definitely am, I'm not there completely, but I'm pretty confident in what I can be now, and I'm very confident that I'm going to fulfill my my North Node for sure. Okay, so we're going to go over to the second house. Now this one cracks me up. Wherever the moon usually is your most tumultuous part of your chart. And this is natally, this is transit wise, this is solar return wise, because as the moon waxes and wanes, so does your emotions, and so does whatever part of your life the moon is in your chart, right? So the moon is in my second house. Second house is the house of self-worth, but it's definitely mostly known for the house of material worth, money. And when I tell you that shit waxed and waned, y'all, I quit my corporate job in April. I actually put my final notice in February, but if you've seen my Saturn return videos on Jupiter's vision, you would see that that was just a long road, a stressful long road, and a step I needed to take for not only my family but for me to not lose my mind. And I did save I thought at least I saved enough money for me, and I was able to live off myself well with the money I saved. But after a while, I wasn't getting the little callbacks for my part-time job so I can sustain myself, and I got dead broke, y'all. So when I said that my money waxed and waned, it did. And with it conjuncting Uranus is not only the revolutionary in innovation, but it's also when I think of Uranus, I think of let your freak flag fly. It's the unique, weird things that happens. You know what I mean? It's comes to you really, really fast and it just leaves. You know what I mean? And so that's what my money literally did. It came fast and it left. Not only that, but I got my money in ways that I didn't think I would get money. I would do some weird online stuff to get money, such as taking surveys. I was doing online jobs. I was doing voiceovers. I was doing focus groups. I was doing things I never have done before, like that, to get money, and started making money off of doing charts. And I swore, I felt like I was not as confident. And again, this is kind of indicative of the moon. I didn't think that I knew that I was good at astrology, but I didn't think I could make money doing astrology. And so once I kind of through the help of my soul tribe, and my sister, definitely. So my sister was the first one to tell me, you're better than a lot of people I know in astrology. You need to do this. With the help of them, I really got the confidence to really push forward with this. So doing some strange things for some change. And I don't mean that type of strange things, but strange things for me, definitely have done that. So again, another indicator. I'm going to skip Stars of Fortune. I'm going to skip North Node. I'm going to kind of focus more on the major planets when it comes to that, when it comes to this chart. But if you want me to go into that, I can in a different video, okay? Let's go to, now this one is one of my favorites over here. Jupiter in the 8th. 8th house represents the occult. It's not spirituality, but it's not like the 12th house where it's spirituality and the unknown, but it's more like secrets that you can find out, but you choose not to. It's the taboo, the occult, the witchcraft, that type of stuff. It's intimately connecting with people. It is sex, right? It is not just sex, though. You can intimately connect with people in other ways too. You can do that emotionally. It's psychic ability. You know what I mean? Just any way that you can connect with people intimately, that's what it is. It's also the house of shared money, and that's another way to connect to someone intimately. Because people don't let their money matters out there. That's very intimate. So with Jupiter being there, I haven't received I didn't really experience sharing people's money like that. Although I can say, though, since my money was waxing and waning in my second house, I did receive a lot of support from my family. Not really financially, but moral support, because I was helping my family as well with my brother who has a mental illness. I've kind of stayed back and helped my mother with him because my mom really needed the help with him. But beyond with that, I didn't receive the money yet, which I'm hoping by the end of my Saturn return I get that reward, that shared money. But with Jupiter being here, Jupiter is the planet of expansion, higher learning, travel, foreign lands, but also foreign ideas. And so for it to be in the 8th house, I definitely expand my mind when it came to the occult, when it came to astrology, witchcraft. I like didn't close my mind. I wasn't so scared of it anymore. I was just open to it and ready to learn and ready to master master myself when it comes to astrology and tarot and all the other divinations of the world that we are aware of, right? It's in Libra as well, so I think this kind of described how I got deeper into the occult and astrology. I partnered up with people. Now, not physically. This is the 8th house we're speaking of, right? But I did through YouTube. I started following people, really researching. And I usually research when I was into astrology when I was younger. I was super into it since I was 14. I usually studied by myself reading books. But this was the first year where I was like, let me see what these other astrologers are saying. A lot of astrologers are lucky enough to have a partner in crime or kind of like a sensei to help them and to teach them and help them master their skill. I didn't have that, so I used YouTube to better my knowledge with astrology. And so I see that as me, maybe not physically partner up with them, but spiritually partner up with them so I can learn about astrology more. And I definitely expanded my mind, and I'm definitely still doing it, and it's a fun placement, that's for sure. Oh, this next house I'm going to talk to is probably the most strongest I felt when it came to the solar return. And I think I'm going to make this my last one that I talk about. I'm going to skip the Sun and Pluto. And I'm just going to talk about how this played out in my 10th house, because I don't want this video to be too long. But again, if you guys want me to talk about, the powers of fortune, which is in my 3rd house, my North Node, which is in my 7th, and then Sun and Pluto in my 11th, and how it played out in my life, I can talk about that in another video, okay? But I just want to keep this video a little bit shorter. I don't want it to run too long, all right? So lastly, we're going to talk about how this played out in my 10th house. Now, Mercury is there and it's retrograde, 29th degrees, which is funny because that's the degree of this retrograde, right? So it's funny because I actually don't do videos on Mercury retrogrades, and I felt like I had to, and I think this is why. My career, which 10th house is representative of career and how other people recognize you. My career has definitely taken a huge shift. I was working in corporate America and I was totally miserable, guys. I had a manager who just didn't understand me, who was just was biting, and I just don't work well with people who were like that, with a negative attitude. And she probably didn't mean to, honestly, who knows, but I just can't work that way, and that's just what I know. I switched managers that year, or this year actually. No, was it this year? No, it was the year before, 2016. And so that was a big shift with me, and I definitely struggled with that. But I was so used to having this nicer manager, and I went from this one that was a little more harsher on the edges, and it was just definitely difficult to work with her. Mercury being here in retrograde is very indicative of how I felt. Mercury is the planet of communication, and when anything is retrograde natally, it means that you hold back in whatever that planet represents. So I was holding back in communication about how I felt with my career. I didn't feel comfortable talking to her about my issues with her. I felt like she would take vengeance. She would be vengeful when it came to that. I did not feel comfortable at all. I'm usually pretty open on how I feel but when it comes to me being treated wrongly, but I just didn't feel comfortable. I felt like it just wouldn't have ended right. And then also, when a planet is retrograde, transit wise, it means you need to sit back and reflect on your life. And I definitely have done so when it came to my communication, how I need to be a little bit more open than I usually am. I have a lot of going on in my 12th house, so I usually hold a lot of stuff in. And so that was definitely a lesson there for me. Now, Lilith is also retrograde in the 10th house. With that, I think this Lilith in Astro Themes is talking about asteroid Lilith. I'm pretty sure it is. Because, I'm pretty sure this is asteroid Lilith. And this is where you feel suppressed. Asteroid Lilith represents where you feel suppressed. And I did feel suppressed in my career. And like I talked about my ascendant, I wanted to make money by being myself. I wanted to be comfortable by being myself. And I felt like I couldn't be myself. I couldn't be happy. I usually have a happy disposition. I was miserable, guys. Miserable. And so, it's retrograde, so I held that all in. And I reflected on it. And I knew I needed to get out. I knew this. I actually spoke to a lot of intuitives, but I knew that I needed to get out. I knew that. So, it's in Sagittarius too. Sagittarius, again, similar to Jupiter, because that's its planet, is about expansion, learning more, higher learning. And so, through me expanding my mind and opening my mind of the different possibilities I have, that I don't have to work in corporate America, I realize that I don't have to work in corporate America. Right? Like, me expanding my mind and like learning more about other possibilities to like make a living and being, not only just making a living, but making a living and being happy. Like, me expanding my mind and realizing that I don't have to go through this. It made me realize I don't have to work in corporate America to be okay. And I shouldn't have to worry about what other people think. That's bringing Saturn here. Saturn's also in my 10th house, and Saturn is major life lessons, authority, and figures and stuff. And I definitely had a brute and rough authority figure in my career that was just really stopping me from shining and stopping me from being happy. But it was a major life lesson that I need to expand my mind when it comes to how I'm recognized in this world. I have to focus more on my talents that make me happy now. I'm talented when it comes to business, but it doesn't make me happy. So I need to focus on things that do make me happy and how I can make money and make a living and be happy within that. So, again, y'all, this was extremely accurate for me. And I would love to talk about how it's with you. So if you're interested in the reading, please look at my contact information below, and I'll be happy to help you. But yeah, guys, that's the solar return for you, how I read it, my explanation about it, how I now believe in predictive astrology a little bit more. And I hope I can help you. You know what I mean? Feel free to contact me about like specific questions you have about next year. I like, kind of figuring out a question that you have, like a general question about love or career or whatever, and answering it from your solar return. I'm not a big fan of just reading whole entire charts. I mean, I'll do it if you really want me to, but I'm just being honest here. It's a lot of work, that's why. Which, I mean, if you give me enough, the right money for the right price, I'll do it for you. But anyways, let me stop. That's how I read solar return charts. Let me know if you want a solar return reading or a natal chart reading, or if you had just a question and you want me to look at how it affects you transit wise. I'll be able to help you. It can, love, career, destiny, whatever. I'll be able to answer your questions. I'll be able to look at astrology and see how it's going to work for you. Okay. All right, loves. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a lovely, beautiful day. Peace.